Hello, all you paranormal freaks. It's the last Saturday of the month, and you know what that means. The veil is at its thinnest. So if you're brave enough, all of you hitchers and drifters, load up for a ride with Golden J and Logan as they traverse to the other side.
Hello, all of my bloodthirsty, pumpkin-carving paranormal freaks out there. It is I, Golden J, hanging out with
just Logan
and the Strawman. There he is, right there. I am super excited that the Strawman is with us. I was actually thinking back today as I was kind of preparing myself for today's recording. Strawman was one of our first reviews on Apple, and I remember giving him a shout out early on, and him replying. I can't remember if it was an email that you sent us. Do you remember for sure?
It would have been Facebook.
I think when I sent something, it was on Facebook. Almost all my interactions have been on Facebook.
Right on. But that goes way back. So you've been a long time Two-Sop listener.
I owe it all to the artist. I seen the clip of the oh my god, I'm so sorry. The Scarecrow, and I was like, that looks badass. Let's try this out.
Nice. That's the point, baby. Haskins is doing his work, bringing people in.
I don't think we'll ever retire Haskins, will we?
No, man, he's the mainstay, man. That'd be like getting rid of Chester Cheeto. Can't do that.
That'd be like getting rid of Taylor Swift. Who else would we sell tickets in Kansas City?
Oh, jeez.
Oh, well, man, welcome to the show. First time on the actual pod with us. I know we talked about you a million times on here, because you are a fan and you do a lot of interactions with us. I know that you and me have talked a lot of football. Are you still a Steelers fan, or have you kind of hiding your head on that one at this point?
They're doing decent this year. I'm actually really surprised that it hasn't been pretty at all, but they've definitely been keeping up.
Yeah, your rookie quarterback. Well, he's not really a rookie anymore. Well, I got to think. He played all last year. Is starting to really come together, which I was hoping he would, because there was just something about him I really liked when I watched him get drafted, and I'm excited for you guys. Hopefully, they'll get it all put together, and you guys will make some solid runs here in the AFC in the next couple years.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely feeling more confident now. I seen the fire in his eyes yesterday.
Nice.
Oh, if my West Virginia Mountaineers could get on the same page, then we might be able to talk about something good. But, you know.
Well, just remember, in the sports bubble, you can't have it all. You got to have one or the other.
Yeah, that's the truth right there.
As you notice, Logan looks really lost when we talk about football.
I don't do sports ball unless it's the Bruins or the Devils. I don't pay attention to no sports. So
I love hockey. I never get a chance to watch it anymore.
It's better in person, anyways. Like, I just keep up with scores. Nothing beats a live hockey game, but like watching on the TV, especially as you get older, it's a little harder to keep track of.
Absolutely.
You used to watch NASCAR.
Hockey game, but I've never been to a professional. I want to get up and see the Penguins.
Not the Penguins.
It's the thing to me. So other
That's
than like
fair.
the
fair.
Blue Jackets in Ohio, and nothing from Ohio is any good to me. Sorry.
Absolutely. I was lucky enough to make it to the United Center a few years ago to see the Abs and the Blackhawks play. And I'll tell you what, man, a regular compared to, we had a minor league team close called the Comets, the Fort Wayne Comets, and to go watch an actual NHL game compared to that, the speed is unbelievable. It's crazy how fast those guys are on that ice. It's pretty amazing. Definitely recommend an NHL game.
Yeah. Once I moved to Texas, like I got to watch we had an actual local team for a while, but as soon as I moved here, I got to watch them play one game and they folded it. They were like, nope, nobody wants to come watch the Wildcatters play. Nobody gives a shit about hockey in Southeast Texas. So it was just gone instantly.
Fort Wayne did a indoor football team a couple different times. Me and Scotty T actually spent an entire season going and watching the Fusion play every game, and that was a blast, man. I'll tell you what, those guys running into walls, and shit, it was just amazing. Those guys are hardcore.
What you been doing for the month of October so far, Mason? Anything special you've been doing or plans or?
Well, nothing really. The boyfriend loves doing haunted houses, and I don't do that because last time I was in one was in a haunted corn maze out in Mothman country, and some guy came behind me and they weren't supposed to touch you. He touched me and I whipped his ass. It was a bad night.
That's pretty good.
So yeah, I mostly just drive around. I sit them let him sit in where I send him in. I sit in the car and watch football or something like that.
It sounds like a good plan. That's what I was gonna do with Jen.
I love a good
if it's
haunted
like
house.
If it's like a ghost tour or something like that, I'm all for it. But yeah,
there's night and day difference.
No.
Between somebody intentionally popping out of the woods to scare the shit out of you to maybe seeing a ghost. There's two different feels there. So
oh man. I haven't done a haunted house since I was like in elementary school. So yeah, I don't know. That when they grabbed the girl in front of me and pulled her into the coffin, that was all I needed to see. Fuck that little bitch, I was out of there.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah. I do them whenever I can, but the one that we did a photo shoot for right when TUSOP started for Team Tejas, they were tearing it down to rebuild, and they were supposed to open this year and they still weren't ready yet, so it's still not open.
Really?
It looks great now though. It's like a 2-story building they built out there and it looks fantastic, but they just couldn't get enough work done before the season hit again, so now they have to wait a whole another year before they can get people out there.
So did I ever tell you that we had and I say this, we had a building that we had on as part of the hospital complex, and it wasn't necessarily on the same land as the hospital. It was more downtown, but it was an old building, and people claimed that it was haunted. And I never ran into anything. I worked in that building in the basement by myself, and nothing ever happened to me. But we had a delivery girl that would not go into it. She claimed to be a sensitive, and she said that there was just way too much evil in there, and she wouldn't deliver inside the building. And I think she was there twice and then never came back.
Oh, wow.
She wouldn't deliver that route. But the way that this building was set up, it was 3 stories. It had, the basement floor, a main floor, which was like 5 steps up to get into the main door. And then, of course, the 3rd floor. There was stairways at each end, and then there was a stairway on the one side that would only go from the 2nd floor to the basement. And it was just really weird the way these stairways were set up. We actually shot the video for ledge in the stairway of this building for what Crankshaft Glory did, that trilogy of videos, those music videos. And I always thought that would be the greatest place for a haunted house, because you could go in the front door, go up the one stairs or go down the one, you know what I'm saying? And the doorways would go, the couple of the doorways went outside and went, nowhere but outside. And it was just crazy. I always thought that would be the perfect setup for a haunted house, and you could actually utilize all 3 floors by just mapping out the stairways and doing all that shit. But they sold it. I never got a chance to put a haunted house in it.
They have an old abandoned hotel that they used in Beaumont for the longest time for a haunt, and then Then they moved to like a smaller building, but they still called it the Haunted Hotel. That's actually where me and Kayla went on our first date. Was that mini golf?
Yeah, you talked about that in the upcoming Chiller Filler about that being your first date. I mean, is that something that you guys sat down and talked about, or did you just like get her in the car and was like, I'm gonna go play mini golf, and then I'm taking you to a haunted house, and she was like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I was in charge of planning it, so I was like, yeah, we'll go do this, and then we'll go do this, and then after that, we went to 7-Eleven and got some Slurpees.
What is her is it I know that she did a while back, she did a full makeup for this for the ghost one.
Casper.
Yeah.
Yep.
What is her TikTok handle or Instagram handle for that?
Creepy Kitty Cosmetics.
There you go. You guys got to go check that out because she did an amazing job. She takes the whole video of her putting on the makeup, and when she's done, she looks just like the art that we have for Casper.
Yeah. Non-trademark there.
Yeah.
It's different. Spelled different.
It's all in how you say it.
Yeah. No, she kills it. And she also crochets and sews for camping this weekend. She made me my Halloween crochet outfit I'm wearing, and she made me my Viking costume for the next day. So
no, wait, do we get to see pictures of this?
Oh, there'll absolutely be pictures of this.
All right. There better be.
There might be one night that all the ladies planned on doing Playboy bunny costumes in all different colors, and I might have bought myself the gold one.
All right.
There'll definitely be pictures.
Well, your sister's going, right?
Yeah, she'll be there too. She's used to it.
She's 100 pictures. Yeah, she takes 100 pictures of that stuff. So,
no.
Well, Mason, I want to thank you for the shirts. I'm wearing my Mothman Festival shirt. I've got Logan still in the box back here, and I'm going to send it to him here eventually, or maybe when I'm down there this year, maybe I'll just bring it with me. I haven't quite decided yet, but I do have his right here. It is ready to go. Can you tell us how was the festival?
Very, very hot. I was like, I understand their reasoning in not doing it in October because of all the stuff that goes on during the weekends in October. But like, my God, in September, there's just no reason to be out there. And you're out there on the river, which helps out some, but it's still crazy and insanely hot. But other than that, it was like really cool. Like, there was all kinds of different vendors doing like homemade masks and different like stuff for your home. And there was all kinds of people dressed up as like Men in Black and a couple of the Mothman creatures, and it was really cool though.
Nice.
Could you imagine getting in full costume in the heat like that?
Dude, it was bad. I seen this one guy. He was in a full Sasquatch costume, and there is no way. No.
That is how you get heat stroke. For that. Good Lord.
Yeah.
That's why we wait till October and November to go to Renaissance Festival. It opens about a month before, and it's still too hot in Texas to where it'll be like 90-something degrees outside. So we wait until it cools down before we go.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It would be dope to check out something like that, though. I've never been to like a cryptid festival or anything like that. I've been to Comic Cons and nerdy stuff, but nothing for the cryptid community.
Yeah, we do that one. We do the Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant, and then we also do the Sasquatch Festival in Flatwoods. And
nice.
Then I think they do like a Flatwoods monster thing too.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that.
Yeah, I think they both coincide with that. And then there was a few people dressed up as the Flatwoods monster down at the Mothman Festival also.
Yeah, you guys got a bunch of good cryptids down in that area.
Yeah, there's all kinds of good creepy shit in this state, between cryptids and meth heads, but it is what it is.
Oh man, don't even get me started on meth heads. I woke up this morning, right? Go downstairs to get in my car, and I get to grab my handle. And when I go to grab my handle, I look inside my car, and it looks like my glove compartment has exploded. Like there's just shit everywhere. So Logan was late to work because he had to call the cops because somebody broke into his car and rifled through all the shit. But you knew it was one of these. We have a lot of meth heads around here that ride on these electric bicycles, like homemade electric bicycles.
Oh, fun.
And you know it's one of them because like they clearly couldn't haul stuff because like I said, I'm about to go camping. So my trunk is full of all sorts of new camping stuff. I got a brand new beer pong table back there, my nice sleeping bag, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And they went back there. They opened the trunk. They poured out my Walmart bags of stuff. Didn't steal none of it. But what they took was a $1 bill, loose change, and like old crusty Pokemon cards that were in my visor that I just liked and had up there. Turned out my whole car, and that's all they took.
Wow.
Because they didn't know they one must have been panicking, and two, they couldn't load up a beer pong table and all that onto a bicycle. So I was like, I was mad. Don't get me wrong, but then I was also like, this could have been way worse.
I've never had my car dealt with, but I have had stuff stolen off my front porch. Somebody had stole my Jack Skellington projection light. I was ready to kill them over that. And then horrible. They stole a $300 weed eater. And yeah, I was like, okay, I'm tired of this. I'm living in town right now. I'm going to go back to the country. So now I'm back out here in the country where you might get shot. So
yeah. Yeah, no, I'll take the car. The last thing that I had stole from here was about like probably like closer to 5 years ago. Well, it might have even been longer than that. My whole ass Indian Scout motorcycle.
What?
We had a massive storm, and I mean like a batten down the hatches storm here, and my bike didn't even have a battery in it because it had died. So I had bought a new one and it was charging inside. Mm-hmm. During that storm, they must have came with a trailer and just pushed my bike up onto it. I come outside the next day, there's nothing but my bike cover out there, and it's just gone.
Oh, that's freaking horrible.
Oh, these are the worst.
Yes, they are.
Mine was in Chicago.
Oh, yeah, well, it tracks.
Yeah, of course it was.
We went to the Double Door. I think it was, the Double Door to see a band back when we were doing Golden Image Radio real heavy. High Gloss Black was playing up there, so we drove up, parked on the street with 100 other cars, and when we walked out at 2:00 in the morning, they had taken out my back window and stole a messenger bag that had nothing but a bunch of paperwork in it for the radio station, because I always carried it with me, all my notes and stuff from my interviews and all that. And they left all the money in the console. They left phones and cameras in the glove compartment. They didn't go through anything else. They just busted out my window and stole that bag. And I do believe that was like late November, early December. So, Indiana's cold as shit.
Yeah.
And the cops were like, we'll just send you a report. Our officers are too busy eating donuts to come down there and check it out. And I'm like, all right. And I mean, literally, that's what he told me. He literally told me that they were on the donut run and they didn't have time to come down there. They were too busy.
I appreciate the honesty, actually.
Yeah, exactly. I was laughing at him. So me and Billy were in the front seat, and Angel, the old Angel of Rock, was in the back seat. We were throwing her every jacket we had. The heater was on full blast, and we're running down 80, 90 at 70 miles an hour with all that cold. Terrible.
Oh, man. It's fucking awful.
We made it.
That's the worst part too. They just probably grabbed that bag because they probably thought there was a laptop in there, and all they did was take stuff that had importance to you and just you.
In hindsight, I wish because I remember when we left, there was a dumpster right around the corner. I wish I would have just stopped and just poked in my head in that dumpster to see that if it was in there, because I can't imagine that once they popped that window, grabbed that bag, and opened it up, that there was anything that they give two shits about. It just would have hit the trash.
That's the same with me. Is like I said, those were just like shitty Pokemon cards up in my visor that I just kept up there. But behind them was a picture that my son drew me when he was like itty bitty.
Uh-huh.
And when they grabbed all those cards, they took that with them too, because it wasn't anywhere in the car. So it's just like, you shitheads. So like, you didn't take none of the stuff you could have sold. Like I said, I bet bags of Walmart shit still in the package. They could have took that to Walmart and got money for it and stuff. It's like, but no, you had to grab the shitty Pokemon cards and take a picture that, I'm the only person in the world that gives a shit about it.
Right.
But
all I know is that most of us don't take a beer pong table, go camping.
Well, then you're not camping right. I don't know what to tell you.
We just take bottles, coolers full of beer. We don't worry about playing beer pong.
Oh man, you don't know what you're missing.
Most of us leave room for stoves and tents and
Listen,
shit like that.
I'm going with enough people to where everybody has everything covered. So somebody else is bringing the fire pit. I don't have to bring that. Someone else is bringing the wood. So I'm in charge of the beer pong
it's
table.
going to be in a camper. I can't do the whole tent thing anymore.
I have not slept on the ground in I don't know how long. I think the last one I woke up and the air mattress was deflated and I was still laying on the ground. It's like, yep, nope, no more, done, out.
Listen, up till 2 years ago, I was I don't need a air mattress to go camping, blah blah blah. 2 years ago, it was freezing, and I was just sleeping on the ground, and I was like, I'm fucking getting an air mattress. I ain't ever sleeping on the ground ever again. Now I got a big old air mattress I sleep on.
I couldn't do it without an air mattress and a fan. I got to have a fan in there for noise.
Fan's number one. I take it with me everywhere I go. It does not matter what's going on. It's got to be in there.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I sleep with a fan right on my face here, but there I don't need it because like I said, it's the biggest Renaissance festival in the United States and there's people that don't sleep. So you'll be hearing bands all night and people running their stereos and generators. So noise is not a problem.
Now, see, when we go to KC, we have a specialty fan that it's just a box fan. It's nothing special about it, but we have a fan that goes with us everywhere because Bobbi will not sleep in the same room with me because I snore and I keep her awake at night. That fan helps drown him out. So, like when I go to KC with Chico, like I did last year, we're going to go again this year, and I make sure to take the fan so that I can drown. So he doesn't have to hear me snore. The last time we all went together, me and Skylar snored so loud he had to sleep in the bathtub. Poor guy.
That's awful.
It was terrible. I offered to buy him his own room. I was like, man, I'll just get you a room because we were out there in Cleveland. Went and seen 30 Seconds to Mars and then did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And we had a hotel and we got out there Friday and we kept him up all night because of our snoring. And on Saturday night, he just slept in the tub.
Stuff like that doesn't keep me up because I've my buddy Kyle, the one that the Skunk Ape design's based on. He snores worse than you. It sounds like a grizzly bear that's got breathing issues. And I've always been able to sleep through it. Now, when he's at my house and he falls asleep on the couch, my kids get worried because they'll just sit there and watch him and they're like, is he fine? And they're like, yeah, he's fine. And they'll little 4-year-old and 6-year-old will go over there and nudge him and to wake him up and be like, you good?
That's funny because I know it's true. Been there, done that. We did that on our way to Dallas and Andy fell asleep in the, I remember he's a truck driver and he's like, oh man, I got this covered. I'll drive that whole way. You guys sleep. We'll go at night, blah, blah, blah. About 3-4 hours outside of Dallas, he taps me. He says like, I'm tapping out. I'm like, okay, I'll drive. And I don't think I was a mile down the road till he was out. And he's that heavy snorer also, but it's that snore and then quit breathing and then start snoring again type thing. And I'm like driving down the main highway going, is he dying on me or what?
Yeah.
Going on?
The good old Bobby is kicking in. So yeah.
Oh, so I got to ask Mason, what did you think of the Vamptober intro, the new one just for Vamptober?
I liked it. It was got me right into the spirit of wanting to, go stab some people with some steaks.
I was so happy. I want to give out. I know I'd done this earlier this month, but once again, I want to give a shout out to Chris Clayton for his voiceover work in that. I can't thank him enough for taking the time and doing that. It turned out great. So anybody listening today that enjoyed the intro, go check out Chris's podcast, Guys with Issues. They drop every Wednesday. That they are I don't know what you want to call them, like a comic book club. That would be the best thing to call them. they're a lot of fun to listen to. They work well together. Him, Will, and Pat, and they work well together. And go check them out. Guys with Issues. Get them on Spotify, Apple, Google, and I'm not sure. There's a couple more. So go check them out. And
Absolutely.
Thanks again, Chris, for all your work on that. We appreciate it. All right. Are we ready to get into what we're going to? I got notes here. I'm scratching them out. What we're going to talk about today, which is the Vamptober wrap up.
Yeah, I'm all ready for it.
Logan's got notes.
I do, and I did my re-listen at 1.5 speed like I always do the day of beforehand. Which that intro is wild, sped up too.
Really?
Yeah,
I might have to check that out.
I said that, and J-Dub's laugh is always great.
Yeah.
Sped up.
J-Dub on 1.5 is
Yeah, she laughs like Theodore from Alvin and the Chipmunks.
yes. Oh my god.
Oh.
That's the only time I listen at 1.5 is when I'm going through my second run through for this, because normally I just listen to normal speed.
Right.
I do a lot of driving for like work and everything, so like I don't need it to go faster. I need to last my drives and everything. So
all right, man, we'll take it away.
All righty. So we started out Vamptober with J-Dub telling us about the vampires of New Orleans on October 4th. You guys got into the show by talking about all your neighbors' decorations and everything going around town, which I still haven't seen pictures of a lot of them, which is a little upsetting.
Oh, sorry, man.
And then we talked about then you talked about the launch of the Vamptober merch. That's how we kicked off that episode.
That's a great kickoff. That was a lot of good stuff. Yeah.
No pictures whatsoever.
Sorry, man. It's the one really good one down the road from us is so hard to, because it's right on a main road there, a heavily traveled road. So it's really kind of hard to stop in the middle of this road and take pictures. But I'll see if I can get a couple snaps before the end of the season here.
I love those big setups like we've got behind our Walmart here in town. I drove past it. I went out of my way to drive past the other day to let the kids see it. Like one person has a barbecue set up where it's all skeletons outside having like a barbecue. And then like the next house over, of course, has to beat them. So they got all these inflatables that are like taller than their house. And just, I love it when neighbors start competing like that. Like we decorated outside of our apartment. We made some cardboard decorations, painted them ourselves, made some tombstones and stuff. And as soon as that was done, my next door neighbor has stuff up. And then after that, the neighbor off to the other side of me has stuff up. It's a chain reaction, you know? Once somebody does it, other people have to follow suit. I love it.
By the way, you did a great job on your tombstones from the pictures I seen. I thought they turned out really good. I noticed it's not in your background tonight.
We got to swap it up. You know? It was here last time, and it's going to change when I do the call guys this week too. So just got to keep mixing it up. Right now, I got my Boo bucket from McDonald's. Got a box of Boo Berry, my Boo Berry and Frankenberry action figure. Got some Sam's. My pumpkin stack I painted up the other day. I love it.
I got a marshmallow mask I bought.
Is that guy sitting behind you? I can see that.
You ever listen to Marshmallow?
I don't think I've ever heard anything about.
You should check him out. You can find him on Spotify or wherever else you listen to United States Paranormal.
Well, yeah,
that was a shitty plug. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sure Marshmallow will be fine. Okay, so the first bloodsucker she discussed was, I'm gonna butcher his name. He's from France, so I imagine it's Jacques Saint. There's an S at the end of his name though.
Jacques.
Oh,
it's French. What do you want?
Saint Germain, who moved to New Orleans from France in 1902. The man claimed himself to be the direct descendant of the Count of Saint Germain. And it wasn't long before the man became renowned for entertaining and a socialite for New Orleans nightlife. That was until late one night, the screams of a young woman could be heard coming from his house. Shortly after, the woman leapt from the second story of the building just to escape the torture she was enduring, telling people on the street that she'd been terrorized by her host, claiming he had latched onto her neck with his teeth. When the local police came to investigate, Germain was nowhere to be found, but countless bottles of wine/blood mixtures were found all throughout his house. Unfortunately, the victim did die later on in the hospital. So apparently he latched onto her pretty good if she died from it.
And I forgot to check in to see if have you ever had the Saint Germain's liquor?
No, I didn't know it was a thing.
Yo, it's really, really good.
Is it named after him or his family?
I was gonna check into that, and I forgot. I mean, I've been so freaking busy. I haven't even thought about it. A second thought about it. So I don't know, but I know that it comes in a really kick-ass bottle, and it is really good. I mean, it's a straight. It's not even a mixer. You can just throw it over the rocks and just enjoy it. I mean, it's really, really good. But it's just called Saint Germain's.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was for him. I mean, you've got all sorts of booze now. Like, hell, you got 19 Crimes or whatever, which has like convicted murderers and stuff on the labels. So why not?
Well, all I know is don't give it to Ozzy because he'll just throw up and piss the bed. That's all I'm saying.
You know, the worst part is that could go for the rock star or your dog. Like, it's not interchangeable there.
It was the dog.
Yeah.
And I blame Chico.
Oh, good Lord. Let's see. The second vampire, or should I say vampires JW discussed, was the Carter brothers. These two brothers that worked the docks of New Orleans claimed to fame was that they had claimed over a dozen victims between the two of them. Just like the previous story, the alleged vampire's undoing was the escape of one of their victims. The escapee informed the local police of the horrors the brothers had going on in their home, where they had multiple people tied up and being slowly drained of blood for the siblings to drink. After embarking to the brothers' home while they worked the dock during the day, the officers discovered a grisly scene with dead bodies drained of blood, wrapped in sheets, and still living victims with bandaged wrists tied to chairs. So when I go back and look at this stuff, I do research of my own too. And like that case is really interesting because they claimed there's two different stories about what happened when the police officers found out about what was going on. There's one story that claims that they went there with a bunch of officers and waited, but the brothers never came back. So the next day they just went to the docks and got the brothers there. But the main story that's told is that the police officers got the 8 biggest guys they had on the force. They set up in that house and waited for them to come. And when they came, the brothers put up a fight, and it says that the brothers were managed to fend off about 5 of them before they were detained and brought to the jailhouse. So it's up in the air where they were taken in from and like how it went down.
But if I remember right, didn't they both beg for death because?
Yeah, once they got captured, they were both begging to be put down because they're like, "Listen, we're vampires. We're gonna kill again. So just do us in."
Yeah.
There's another.
Said the Carter brothers. I'm sorry, I automatically went to Aaron and Nick Carter, and I can imagine Nick walking off the dock or something, ready to sing to you and get some blood from you.
Doing a little dance the whole time.
It could be equally scary. There also is a thing saying that they escaped. There's another one of the local legends is saying they escaped prison, but the truth is that they were in fact tried and then not. They did not include that they were crazy, and they also included they weren't vampires, and they put them down. And when they did so, they put them in their family crypt. Local legend says when they went to go add somebody else to the family crypt, because in Louisiana, a lot of people go in what around here people call pizza oven tombs, which are those tombs that look like a brick pizza oven that are sealed up. And how those work back in the day, they made them because the ground in Louisiana is wet, flooding is rough, so burying in the ground isn't always work.
Right.
So the way these things work is people back in the day would pay to be put in one. And when the bill stopped getting paid, if it wasn't like a family plot, they would break it open and they would push your bones to the back to where they could fall down into a wide receptacle underneath and put a new person in. But if it's a family crypt, they just scoot your bones to the back and put your family in there. Well, they claim when the Carter brothers had a family member die a few years after them, They went to go open it up and put a new body in there and scrape their bones back, but their bones weren't in there. And people say that's because they fed off what was remaining of their family members that were in there before them, and that vampires get more strength from blood and stuff from family members. So they think that they got killed, they got back in there, they drained some blood, and they escaped. Who knows?
Wait, what year was that again?
That was, did I not write the year down on that one?
Yeah, because I don't remember.
Yeah, I didn't write the year on that one. Got in both the other ones, not that one.
I'm assuming that's way before embalming became a thing, and if that's the theory that they fed off the bones and blood of their dead relatives, that was before embalming was a thing.
Who knows? Maybe that just adds flavor.
Just like a little sauce.
Oh, yeah.
A little hot sauce in there.
There's also stories about some of their victims. One of their victims that survived, Felipe, it was said that he went on a 32-person draining spree. And they found out about this stuff when they found his diary in his home on Bourbon Street. The diary was said to depict his tale in the madness and bloodlust, and they say that he claimed up to 32 victims. They had another victim that never killed anybody, but said that she hungered for blood and ended up being put in a nut house. So it's one of those things where you don't have any like definite proof, but like if you go to where all this happened, everything, like everybody is just like, this is how it happened.
Right.
So I don't know if they ever found any actual bodies or if they just found the journal of this dude and they just like, oh, he said he killed 32 people, so 32 people it was.
Okay.
But that was well, nope, she had one more. She had the 1728 Casket Girls.
Right.
That one, like she covered that one as there wasn't a bunch of new research I found on that one at all. It was all pretty to the point, like to where how she talked. You guys actually got into talking about the Mandela effect,
right?
As I call it, the Mingala effect. And how like the one story says this, but then later on you've got people saying, no, this house wasn't boarded up till after here, or this person didn't die till here. Very conflicting stories that like both sides of the fence like stand firmly by. Like you got the camp of like, no, this place wasn't boarded up until long after that, so they're not boarded up in there. And then you got people like, no, they're still boarded up in there, and they did it back then. So you never like that. That's another one of those ones. It's like, yeah, unless you go back and look at like when these girls came over, and it's just like they didn't keep definite proof of everything back then, and like nobody's going to write down like on this day this house was boarded up and like an official paperwork that you're going to be able to go back on and read up on.
Right.
So it just kind of becomes whatever the lore of the town made it. Sometimes whatever makes tourism better. So
well, yeah, and that's a big part of it too. It's like some of these stories I've been researching lately that the stories don't make sense in the timelines of some of the articles you're reading, and then you realize that it's all been made up to, just bring in more tourism and and stuff like that, especially now in the last few years where paranormal has just been so much bigger, in the grand scheme of it. But I find it very interesting. I know that we had some fun, or at least the girls did, with kind of theorizing what the caskets were, whether it was theirs or whether it was if they brought vampires in the caskets, or it was just kind of fun to listen to them theorize about that a little bit.
My thing is, how big were these damn things? Because they said they were carrying them, so I can't imagine they're like full-sized caskets. If these are just ladies carrying them around, so were like they smaller sized? Were they bringing in like children vampires, or?
I don't know. I just pictured them on wheels and they were wheeling them in. I never thought about them carrying them in. But
when I hear carrying, man, I think of like, that I grew up in the 90s, early 2000s. So there's a bunch of chicks carrying around those Hot Topic fucking little coffin handbags and stuff in high school and stuff. So when they say this, I'm thinking like, I was like, wow, those have been around that long, huh?
It's
But,
true. It's true.
I mean, but there is tales in vampirism to where like they wouldn't need a big box to carry around because there's a lot of lore that says vampires can be in the form of ash and dirt. You just add some blood to them and they're just right back to fresh. So
Crazy.
Or maybe they were transporting the young and just bringing them to the United States. There's no telling.
Well, that's why we need a time machine so we can go back and check it out.
No,
Figure
you
it
don't
out.
fuck with time travel, man.
Well, I'm not saying you fuck with anything. Just go back and watch and, be like
a time traveling cuck. Is that what you're going
a
for?
cuck?
Yeah, I'm not explaining it if you don't know.
Let's not go there.
He just likes to watch.
What's wrong with that? Anyway, Mason, what did you think of this episode? Since we got you on here to discuss this, what was your take on J-Dub stories?
Well, first of all, whenever she started the whole episode off, whenever she was describing what a vampire was, and she was talking about how the seductive voice and everything, I was like, for some reason, I just pictured Dave Chappelle as Rick James going, "Give it to me, babe." And I'm like, oh my God, that just totally went over my head. But going back to what Logan was saying, I was thinking that with the casket girls, that like if they were like a familiar, then maybe they had some kind of special power where they were able to be stronger and stuff like that, and they were able to carry these damn things.
Could you imagine just like a bunch of nuns at a nunnery having 3 chicks get off this boat and then they're just have full-size coffins and they're just toting them by hand and like, are we moving in over here? And the nuns are like, sure.
There's got a couple like cases like to do a couple things like cuts beer.
Nobody at the Catholic Church is spot checking. Like let us look in the box first, especially depending on the time, because like the diseases and everything. Especially like 1728. I'm sure there was some kind of plague or something that people could have been getting from corpses. We're like, maybe leave your corpse on the boat. Like,
yeah,
you don't need it inside. You're here to get a husband. Do you think you're going to get a husband carrying around whoever's in that box? No. I think out of all of them, though, the one that was most interesting to me was like, I really was interested in the Carter brothers one. This gave me Texas Chainsaw vibes, a family just eating people out in the boonies.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Lots to take in there. Lots to take in J-Dub's 3 little stories there.
Yeah, every month where I do these recaps, like I thought this month I was like Golden J didn't do a story where he was covering like 5 places this month. I was like, my research is gonna be easy. It's fine. And then J-Dub cracks open. She was like, let me tell you the tale of 3 vampires. I was like, oh, son of a bitch.
But she did a great job, and
fantastic job.
And I loved it. I'm a big fan of New Orleans, that, and ready to get back there. But maybe I'll miss going to the Carter house. Maybe I don't think I'll do that. So,
yeah, they claim it's still there. So, I know I love New Orleans too. If it wasn't for the smell of piss everywhere, it'd be so much better.
Well, that's why you go out early in the morning when they're washing the streets.
Yeah.
Smells like soap and water.
Yeah, for a little while until, it comes that night and everybody's got to get booze out of their system.
Oh, man. I stepped over 2 drunk guys. One of them shit himself and it was running down the street, and the other one had puked all over himself and it would run down the street. It's like,
Yeah, just imagine having to live there with that.
No. It's a nice place to visit. Wouldn't want to live there.
Yeah. Okay. So next up, we had episode 83, which was Golden J's case about Elizabeth Bathory and her batshit life
choices.
Pun intended too. Yeah, that was absolutely bad shit. Like, I've known about Homegirl because that character's been depicted in so many movies,
right?
Everything, but I've never done like a deep dive into like her real documented life. So. This was a treat. It was extremely screwed up, but it was interesting to learn about it. So we had she was a Hungarian noblewoman and a serial killer Hall of Famer. She was known as Count
Hall of
Countess
Famer. I
Dracula.
like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if her numbers are real,
Oh shit. Yeah.
she is next to uncontested, like 300 plus.
Oh, I
That's
agree. Yeah.
That's a lot of people. I just don't know how she pulled it off for that long. She was born August 7th, 1560, and died at the age of 54 on August 21st, 1614. So she died a little bit after her birthday. When she left this world, she had a body count of over 300 people and was walled up in her own castle tower to spend the rest of her life. A much more friendly demise than her shitheel, edgy friends that all got dispatched immediately after their court hearings. After her demise, she was buried at a local church. That was until the local townspeople found out and protested until they dug her up and shipped her body off to her home country to be buried. But to this day, there is no confirmation that she ever made it there or the location of her corpse. So you covered this thing, Jeremy. What's some of the more interesting things that you found out about?
So as I did the research into this, it was like a lot of everything that I got into, some of the other podcasts I listened to, a lot of the articles I read, all of them wanted to spend so much time on the nobility part of her story. And I'm like, I would get bored with all that when they were trying to run down the family tree, which if you remember right, the family tree had no branches on it. So, I mean, but just plugging down this thing and going through this noble family and that noble family. And we did this and we did that to combine countries and get lands and all that. For me, that was not the fun part. So I skipped a lot of that, basically gave you the cliff notes on what I could, So, her mom and dad were like cousins or brother and sister or something like that. I forget exactly what it was, but they were both actually Bathanese. And so now you're fed into this whole, that mental health thing with, the inbreeding and all that. And then you get into her basically ruling as her husband goes off to war. And that's where it just gets trippy because she would be fucking with these servants of hers and she would beat them and then eat the flesh of the ones that were, the flesh of the ones before that were still laying on the ground. She'd make them eat the flesh and the cartilage and all that shit. I mean, it was just this chick was fucked up. And I think that she never got caught or never really got into it because she was, the queen, and so to speak. I don't know that they actually had a queen crown or whatever, but her nobility was so high and she was the ruler of the lands that nobody ever questioned the crazy bullshit she was doing until she thought that the servants and the peasants weren't getting her to what she wanted, that she realized she was still aging and the bloodbaths and the drinking and the showers and all that stuff wasn't getting her. So she just started going after more noble young women. And that's when you ran into these other kings. And to be honest, there is another long story of Thurman, the guy who did all the investigating, and her she was like betrothed to him in some sort of way. And I mean, it became a real tangled mess to try to kind of weave through. I kind of left a lot of that out, but it basically boiled down to him saying, yeah, she's batshit crazy. And we need to do something about this. I think that was more towards the other kings who were coming along saying, this is not right. And I want to know what's going on. So,
yeah,
but yeah,
took notice when the other wealthy started getting snuffed out.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't give two shits about the peasants and all that. So, but to be walled up into a turret, so to speak, and that's where you live out the rest of your days, just fucking kill me. I mean, I don't mind the silence for a little while, but I mean, there's a certain point where, stir crazy. So, just put me out of my misery. And, but I mean, I guess that's part of the imprisonment and the torture and all that she probably deserved, I think, at that point. So,
oh yeah, the crazy part about that is even while she was literally walled up in there, she still had full control of her lands.
well, yeah, that's why they didn't kill her, because they were afraid that if they took her out, then it would just be a big, massive war over all the lands that she had. So
while she was up there, she still dictated out a will, decided what was going where, and all that. And that's crazy to think about, like that your title is so high that you could do something as heinous as what she did. And they'll be like, oh no, you can still tell us what to do with this and this and this, but you got to stay in that room. So we make sure you don't kill. At least they knew with her that if they let her have free roam or be able to get out of that place, that it was just going to keep happening.
right.
So like they were just like, no, we just wall her up and just let her talk through us through this little hole in the wall where we slide her dinner through and go from there.
But I think the most important thing to take away from the Bethany story is it takes 28 people to fill a bathtub.
Oh, good Lord.
Hey, that was something else. I couldn't believe that's what it was. I was like, Jesus.
I hope my math was right on that. I mean, I sat there and figured it out pretty quick, but
that's about right. It's got to be about right. Like it really does. And like, so just to think about how many people she was burning through.
Yeah.
And like J-Dub was like, does she reuse it for a little while, or because blood coagulates and everything, it gets thick and all that. So like, I just could not imagine every time this lady was doing this that she was like, fetch me another 28 peasants. Let's get this thing going.
Well, yes. And I guess the question was, I don't have an answer for this, but how often was she taking? Once again, you get into folklore compared to realistic things. I think I did read at some point that there's historians who don't believe she actually bathed in, like a full bathtub full of blood. It was just more of, she kind of showered herself in it. And well, one of the cages I talked about, would raise the girls up and had the basically like an Iron Maiden type thing where they would go in and dig in and start to make these girls bleed, and then that she would be underneath that cage and shower in the blood that was coming down. So like you said, depending on which side of the story, even like the Carter brothers, what side of the story you take in, did she actually fill a bathtub up and bathe in it? Some say she did, some say she didn't. So, I mean, take that for what it is, but let's say she was, how often would she take a bath? Would she quote unquote take a bath in blood? Would it be, I mean, daily? I would think that'd be unrealistic. I don't think that they could have gone through 30 girls a day or, to fill a bathtub for her. I'm thinking maybe like once a month, they would go through and probably fill it up if that was the case, that she was actually physically bathing in a bathtub of blood.
I imagine with her mental illness that she clearly had, if from the inbreeding or just was born batshit crazy or whatnot, that I imagine in her head she would do it whenever she thought the effects, like she'd probably ride a high after doing it and be oh, look at me, I'm so young now, I'm so this and that, and then like one day she wakes up, looks in the mirror, and she's like, I don't like what I see, let's go get another 28 people.
Right.
So maybe like once a month would kind of line up with the amount of people she ended up having murdered and everything. Like if you go with like when she kind of got into that to where she got caught, once a month or once every other month seems like that could be viable.
The other question I have, just in the thought process is that I'm sure both of you have at some point cut yourself and had blood on you that you didn't notice and has dried up, and is really hard to kind of clean off. I mean, if you bathe in blood, would you want to rinse it off? I mean, there's a purpose of having that on you. If you did, how often would you scrub it off? I mean, would the blood still be drying on your skin, or was she, a diva enough that she needed to have that cleaned off of her right away, or a lot of little questions that that I'll never have an answer to because I wasn't there unless I get a time machine.
I always thought of it like a face mask deal. Like I imagine she was putting it on and she just leave it on for a certain amount of time
and then just wipe it off
and then wipe it off.
Right on.
Yeah, after it starts tightening up,
yeah,
it makes the skin feel a little tighter. I think that's what it would be like.
Oh, I cannot imagine. Like, what stops you from being employed by her from just fleeing the country? Like your first day there is a maid or a butler, and you're just seeing like people being fed people, and she's clearly insane. And like, I get it. Times were hard and money was hard back then, but like, leave the country, go work for someone else in another place. Somebody that just like does casual, like normal whipping of like servants and stuff, Like I get it's like medieval-esque times and like they're probably going to hit you regardless, but like in the county over, they're just like flogging you and that's it. You're not getting drained or having to eat people. I just couldn't. It's just bizarre.
Any takeaways for you, Mason, on this story?
That reminded me of the times of I used to be a phlebotomist for the Red Cross, and you would get these batshit crazy people to come in that because during October we would do our Vamptober thing for Red Cross, and you get these weird ass people, and actually had a woman come in one time that had like a bathtub built around her, and she's like, "Here to give blood," and I'm like, "What the hell are you wearing?" And she's like, "I'm Elizabeth Bathory," and I'm like, "Okay." Done my research, and I was like, "Oh dear God." And as soon as I heard that name come up, I was like, "Oh my God, it's that friggin' woman again."
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's a whole ass bathtub around her.
It was insane.
Oh, yeah, that whole story was icky.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
That's what Vamptober's all about, baby. All icky.
Hey, we all covered every different shade of vampire, really.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you said, this is a lady that was bathing in it. J-Dubs was like actual vampire, like what most people know as vampires, people biting people and sucking blood. And then we had the rocker chick, which we're going to get her in a second, but hers was more like almost like an essence vampire,
Yeah.
Psychic vampire.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, which that brings us to that, which is episode 84 on October 18th, where the rocker chick told us a story titled A True Story of a Vampire. Now, I got into this, and the more interesting stuff I found out was about the author.
Yeah.
The author was a nobleman too. Well, he was noble. Count Stenbach. I hope I pronounced that right. A man that himself was renowned for his bizarreness, that a lot of people blamed on his addiction to alcohol and opium. Count Steinbach actually slept every night in an actual coffin and always ate his meals with his best friend and pet that was a toad on his shoulder. This man was considered a very edgy writer for his era since he tended to weave a lot of homosexual overtone into his books. And in this day and age, that's absolutely normal. But in 1894, not so much. But regardless, the tale was published in put in a collection of short stories called The Studies of Death, a collection that H.P. Lovecraft himself claimed to enjoy thoroughly. So this guy has written he's written some stories about werewolves, a bunch of other ones, but like apparently this guy was just like he made people nervous to be around. Because like I said, he had a real coffin in his house. That was the only thing he slept in. When he would leave his house and go places, he would ship his coffin. And he had this big ass toad that was trained to just sit on his shoulder while he ate his meals, and he would feed it on his shoulder.
A toad.
Oh, baby.
A toad.
Hello,
well, there's a lot of tales of vampires themselves. Vampires and witches and warlocks have familiars, and usually they were depicted as like weird animals. Like nowadays we think cats, but like they're like toads, snakes, rats, all of like classic familiars. So it makes you kind of wonder if that dude was something on his own, or if he just drank his own Kool-Aid so much on top of all the opium to where he was just like, yeah, I'm gonna sleep in a coffin. I have a best friend that's Toad. But the tale was interesting. Well, like I said, it was bizarre. There was a lot of points that were really cringy for me because, like I said, we talked about Chiller Filler, which comes out here shortly. But like the J-Dub and then we're talking about like the vibes, like you guys talked about the vibes of maybe he was the boy's real father, but to me, like he gave off some creepy stranger danger vibes to me.
Right.
Real.
Like he seemed like he was romantically interested in that boy from like the get-go. And like the kissing on the mouth stuff and everything. And he seemed to be interested, and they talked about, like I said, with the overtones and everything, he seemed to be interested in everybody in that house but that girl. I think him and dad had something going on. I think him and the boy had something going on. And I think when the boy, I think he was upset when the boy died. I think he knew what was happening to the boy, and it wasn't like he had no choice. I think that was like the sad part of it is like that it kind of gave off vibes like this is inevitable. I have to do this. I want to do this to you. No, I love you. But when he was talking about like you have the curse of being a musician and this and that, I think he was basically just being like, you have the curse of being appealing to me. So even though I love you and I enjoy your company, you're gonna die because of me. Is how I picked it.
Now, I took it a little bit differently when it came to his Gabrielle's talents. Being able to play the musical instruments and his talents with the animals, as far as how he can just almost talk to him, and they were just all so eager to come up to him and be a part of his life. I took that as when he apologized. Or saying he was sorry about the musicianship and stuff like that. And I took that as you're so talented and you have so much potential as you grow older that I'm sorry that I'm going to have to basically take your life for myself, and it's not really what I want to do, but it's kind of what I have to do in order for him to proceed on. And once again, too, even more was he really didn't want to, but he couldn't stop it.
Yeah,
it wasn't something that he had real control over. But
that's a good take. I never even thought about that, but that's a solid take. I wonder, in my mind, if the whole train thing was just like a shtick that he used to get invited into people's houses. Because the whole lure behind vampires is they can't come in unless invited. So like,
right.
Imagine you're a vampire back in the day, back when like people were courteous like that. Be like, oh, you missed your train? Come stay with me and my family for the night. You just be a vampire with your suitcase and just go stand out there and be like, oh, I missed my train. And people be like, hey, come stay at my place. And be like, oh, are you inviting me over? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And I'm like, oh, got it.
Yep. Done. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't take anything to, especially at that time. And most of the time, if you remember, kind of in that era, most people were like that. It was an open door policy where, they weren't afraid to invite somebody in to, to stay and to help them out.
Yeah.
Especially if this guy, she said that he was always dressed nice and stuff like that. He was like a nobleman or whatever. So, how many people would we, invite in if they were a celebrity or so?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree.
Except Will Smith. No one Will Smith.
Would have a few years ago. I would have. I also think like it almost felt like the brother himself to me felt very Fae-esque, like very like fairy-esque. Just because like the way they described him, he's just naturally talented at music. He could talk to animals, and the fact that the brother was the one. Correct me if I was. This is the part that confused me when she read the story. Now, when they said that they shook hands, was it the vampire that felt the pulse on the boy, or was it the boy that felt the pulse on the vampire?
No,
because the boy sprinted away shortly afterwards.
The way I took it is that the stranger actually reached over, and I'm assuming he shook his hand and then just put his finger on the pulse around his at his wrist. That was what I envisioned when she was telling that story. Was he reached out to shake his hand? He probably, I mean, you got to think the kid's hands are like, twice as small. So I imagine the finger, he could have just reached out and placed his finger right there on his wrist just to get his pulse, which, is a weird thing for that little girl to kind of notice.
Pick up on.
Yeah. It wasn't something that, I mean, I would have never in my lifetime would have thought to look at something like that. But that's how I took it.
Yeah. His, like I said, his immediate shining to the boy just kind of made me feel like there was something odd about the boy that like just instantly attracted him to him, because it was like it was like right from the start, So
well, and you're onto something there, because like you said, the boy runs upstairs. The boy never had used the stairs up to that very point. He'd always liked to climb up the tree and go through his window. And this was the first time that she noticed that, he immediately ran upstairs and got in his Sunday's best to come back down, to what would they have, supper or whatever. But I mean, so is there something that in that touch, that handshake, was there something that started the, in my mind control to the boy? Because the boy constantly talked about the stranger the entire time. Even when he was away, he was asking for him. Where's he at? What is he doing? Why is he not here? So did that immediately take over, some sort of mind control or being control or whatever? That was something that stuck with me.
Yeah. And that's, like I said, that's, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Mason.
Do what?
I kind of felt like it was like an imprinting type thing on him.
Yeah.
Like he was able to catch his vibe, and then he was like, oh, this kid has something about him. So I'm in the right place at the right time. And then I kind of felt like when he took the stairs instead of the tree, I was like, maybe here he already got some energy from him.
That's fair. Yeah, if he already had tapped into him a little bit, like you might not feel like going and shimmying up a tree like a little weird Tarzan kid if you feel a little sapped. That
True.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a classic vampire trope, is the whole charming of people, or the bedazzling, or whatever you want to go with, like where they basically just look them in the eyes, or like just sucking off enough energy off of them to where they basically become obsessed with the vampire, which makes it easier for them to keep coming back to that said person. Because like you said, that boy became infatuated with him basically instantly. It seemed like the father too, but to a lesser degree, which makes me wonder if the father was fed on at all, or if the father was just charmed to the extent of getting him to turn a blind eye to all the weird shit that's going on in the household.
Well, that, and he was translating a lot of the books that the father was interested in. And I mean, that if you're interested in something like that, and somebody comes along that can help you further what you're trying to do, that becomes an infatuation right there too. It's like, oh, this guy's gonna be able to help me. He's gonna be able to kind of work this out. And I mean, that's easy. That, to me, that's an easy one. As a musician, you work with a musician who's more talented than you can learn from, and all you want to do is just keep going back over to your buddy, your guitar player buddy's house to learn more and more and more.
That's fair. The whole tale was really, really interesting, and it was something we haven't done on TUSOP before, is where we just have somebody sit down and tell a story,
right? Which
was really interesting. Being a listener, Mason, like, how did you feel about the episode and like the change up of the format and everything?
Actually, I really like the whole story vibe. That story was actually really well written, and I wanted to go and actually research on that author itself. But yeah, I thought it was a really good change up, and yeah, I've always liked the whole story, like go back and you talk about like the whole lore and everything like that, and everything that goes along with it.
So is that something you'd like to see more of down the road?
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. You tell them, you can pick out these stories from everybody else and see what their take was on it, and then have a forum like this.
Yeah, I think I agree too. I know I don't think I'm built for story reading myself. I struggle reading my kid bedtime stories.
And those are the small words.
Yeah, they are. They really are. I've been reading the same Halloween book all month, and I'm still tripping up on the scene where the dad's sneezing on a hayride. So, and then I guess that leads up to me and what I covered, which was the New England vampire panic, and that actually podcast land. Everything's filmed out of order, so technically that drops this Wednesday. So Mason's the only fan that's been able to listen to it so far. I talked about multiple cases, all tied to one big case, technically though, because they were all mine were from the same town, Exeter. The first one was covering the Stuckley and his withered crops as premonition of his family dying, with his daughter Sarah being the accused vampire. Another case I covered that was in the same town was the Young family, which was with their daughter Nancy, and that one was one of the ones that stuck with me the most, with just the mental picture of what the townspeople claimed of Father Young telling nobody he didn't want anybody's help, and he dug his own daughter's grave up and then carried her corpse to the pyre. Like that visual in my head was very haunting. I think that's something that's going to stick with me forever. I can't imagine the people actually saw it in person, what that was like to deal with mentally, especially all the family being called out there to stand around the pyre and being told, like, hey, kids that keep coughing up their own lungs, breathe deep, get as much of this in you as possible, with us all knowing now that all that was doing was making it so much worse for them, on top of the mental damage is doing, knowing that they were literally breathing in their sister. And like I said, they had to have seen their father carrying her too, which she had been in the ground for a while there. So that whole thing was icky. And then we had Mercy Brown, which is one of the most famous cases of, like we talked about, of a corpse being exhumed for technically like sacrificial type purposes, all in the same small town. And it just, like you said, it spread like wildfire, especially back then with people. We talked about in the episode how when these smaller towns were removed from these bigger cities, they leaned more towards superstition and old folklore than they did to the people in the cities who had electricity already and the start of automobiles and were looking for cures for diseases. Meanwhile, these people are like, we kill the vampire. That is the medicine. That's the cure for the disease. So it was trippy to look at. And like I said, that was only 3 stories about the New England vampire panic. There was a lot more cases of graves being dug up and families being forced to exhume bodies of their families, to do things from inhaling them to ingesting their ashes, which is another thing I just couldn't fathom.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. It was just a neat case to look into.
How far offset were we from the Salem witch trials to this story?
Oh, the Salem witch trials would have been a significant time before then.
Right.
Because you got to think that was Salem witch trials were not too long after Pilgrims and stuff like that. I mean, the Salem witch trials were nowhere near electricity.
Okay.
But it was of the same mindset though.
And these stories took place in late 1800s. Is that right? Mm-hmm. If I remember right.
And some of them in the 1900s.
Right. I'm just trying to patch it together of why, as we sit here and talk, as we sit here and rehash it and talk about it, I'm trying to figure out why in this area has this become a thing? Why in this small town? Like you said, these are just 3 stories of many that happened in this small town. Is that the mindset of the town council that said, all this is what's going on. It worked for this first one. We just do it with all of them. Is it that mentality, or is it something in the ground? Is this the case of, too much iron, or something in the ground that's because we got to think back then you're either you're pulling water from a well that you've dug, or you're pulling it from the river or the streams, right? At this point, I mean, in the late 1800s, that's how kind of where you're getting your water source, plus your crops are coming from the ground. Is it something in the ground that was causing this? You follow what I'm getting at here?
Yeah,
you
I
know?
get you. It's like, why did it spread so bad in the New England area
Yeah,
opposed to the rest? And I think it could be a little bit of everything. I think a big chunk of it is like we settled this country in very different speeds throughout it.
right,
So like we said, these were happening rural towns where like most of these towns weren't even like fully converted to Christianity or anything like that, to where like instead of a mayor, they had a town council. So you've got all these town council people, which are usually elders. So they've been around and seen a bunch of shit. So like this probably started with one of the first cases I talked about. And then somebody else gets tuberculosis because, you know, it is going to happen.
right,
And they went back then to like the not well educated. It looked like a curse because in these rural towns where houses are spread apart, and like there isn't, back then it wasn't like everybody was going to the store for this or that. Everybody grew their own crops, grew their own food, and so they really didn't get outside of their house and their family so often. So when a family gets hit with tuberculosis, it's aerial.
right,
It looks like a curse. It looks like, well, why is this family dying left and right? Why is everybody going so quickly? And then they start looking at like, well, this happened 10 years ago to the Young family, and we determined that that was a vampire. And it stopped shortly after us digging up this person and burning them. But you got to think, in like an educated mind, it's like it didn't stop because you burned that person. It stopped because by the time that you got to the conclusion that it's a vampire, 7 out of the 14 members of this family are already dead and been buried for a while. If it was going to be killing the rest of the family, they'd already have it,
right,
and be on death's door, which in most cases would have happened. Like the older people, mom and dad, and like the eldest siblings survive because they're older. They've probably been exposed to the disease before, better immune system. So then all the young ones die off, and then they're like, oh, well, by the time we burned this just a few months later, nobody else died. And this is because everybody with compromised immune systems and the not right stuff in their bodies to fight it are already dead.
right.
But in the elders' mind, they're like, no, we fixed it by finding out who's the vampire, which usually ended up being somebody that got buried in a particular time. Like we talked about, they were like, oh, it was yada yada because her body barely showed signs, even though she'd been buried this long. It's like, yeah, but you tried to bury her in January and you couldn't because the ground was frozen. So you basically stuck her in a big rock refrigerator until 2 weeks ago, where you finally put her in the ground, and now you're digging her up and you're like, look how fresh she is. She's a vampire. I'm like, no, dude, you basically had her in a corner fridge for almost a half a year. So yeah, she looks a little bit, she's just now thawing out. So it's just, I think it's a lot of superstition. And like we said, all three of these happened in the same town. I imagine by the time it got around to Mercy, there was probably still lingering members of the original town council that were like the younger members, you know? And now they're just a lot older, and they're like, well, I've seen 2 cases of vampires in this town. And this is awfully similar. It's because it's the same disease.
Right.
That killed them all. And it's also like loops in with panic too, because people start seeing this and they're like, I don't want this to spread to my family. So we need to figure something out. I mean, 2 out of 3 of these cases, families were forced by their neighbors and the town council to dig up their loved ones. They didn't want to, but they didn't get a choice, and they had to do it. And then with the one, they made their son drink his sister's ashes, which, holy crap.
That's the Kool-Aid you don't want to drink.
Oh, I could not even imagine. But it was neat to look into. Yet again, with the different shade of vampire, like this is the classic tale of vampires. Like before they were considered like fangs and blood sucking, vampires were more of a malevolent spirit attached to a loved one that was not even leaving the grave, but the spirit of them would leave the grave and leech blood and life out of you and then go back to the grave. And that's why supposedly the corpse looks so fresh, is because it was keeping it energized and full, and its liver and heart full of blood. Which really, with tuberculosis, the reason they would see blood on their lips and everything, even after they expired, that stuff would still leave their system. Their lungs were full of blood and deterioration. So it's going to, as gross as it think about, it's going to leak out. So they weren't pretty tales, but they were neat. It was really hard to pick where to go.
Right.
But I got the benefit of being the last one to go, so I got to see kind of what every shade of vampire everybody was doing. So I just wanted to go with this one.
Mason, what do you think of it?
I liked it. I hadn't never heard that story before, or any of the vampire panic or anything up in the New England state. Like, I thought that was really cool because and back to the whole, they were trying to figure out what was killing these people and everything like that. I was sitting there thinking, I was like, well, where do these people probably immigrate from that was in this town? Like, what kind of, superstitions did they have? And I was like, well, obviously it must have been something with a vampire. So
yeah.
And then, all these horrible things going on. Tuberculosis was one of the worst diseases out there. And then, you were trying to make heads or tails of it any way you could and just, take it out.
I might still have it somewhere. I probably lost it by now. Oh, no, I've got it right here. There was actual flyers being passed around in Exeter, stapled to walls and everything. And this is what they read. Big bold letters. These would be printed out in the presses and everything. It says, "Believe in vampires. Rhode Islanders who are sure that they do exist. Instances told of where the living have been attacked and preyed upon by these representatives of the unseen world." And at the bottom of it was a member of the anti-vampire party. And it might be hard to see here, but it's just a depiction of hearse buggy going through the town and a guy with a gun and stuff guarding it. And these were actual literature that was handed out back then. That's how real it was to these people, which is just bonkers to think of.
Well, and I don't doubt that it's extremely real to them. I mean, even with my speculation of, what I might think, that's the nerd in me coming out, thinking about all the different aspects of, what could be, this direction or that direction. But I mean, I never in a million, would have thought that any different of those people, that was true to them of what they thought was going on. Whether it be from folklore or superstition or whatever the case may be. But I mean, that was extremely real to them. So yeah, I can totally see that flyer going out.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, like I said, in the bigger cities where they would make fun of what happened to these people, because people would report on it because it would spread.
Right.
And for the father for Mercy Brown, like we talked about him, that man lived long enough to see an actual cure be made for the disease that killed the majority of his family. And he fought it the whole time. He didn't believe it. He didn't want to dig his daughter up. But he didn't, like I said, he didn't get a choice. The town doctor didn't even get a choice, really, because he didn't believe in it himself. But he knew if these people were going to be exhuming these graves, he wanted to make sure the bodies were treated with as much respect as possible and in the safest way as possible, because he knew that she died of a disease. And he's like, we're going to have this group of people all around this disease-ridden, decomposing corpse. If it's not handled by a professional, we're just going to end up with an outbreak of God knows what. And unfortunately, after they got her out of the ground, he kind of lost control of the situation, and they tore into the girl and took her heart and burned it and her liver, and just it's crazy to think about from both sides, from the side of the people that fully believed it, from the side of the people that, like the doctor and the dad, that had no beliefs in it whatsoever and just had to watch madness take over a town, and group mentality, mob mentality get the rule of it,
Right.
But yeah, that was my story. Like I said, it was interesting. It was my first time being back to do a case in a long time, so that was definitely had to keep the wheels on that a little bit.
Hey, it was fun. I mean, all of Vamptober was good. I do have a question though. Besides Saint Germain, if I remember right, the girl said that he actually bit her, right?
He did, yeah.
But I mean, all the rest of with Bethany and the others, it was all pretty much a drain and drink, wasn't it? Not many of the traditional bite marks, the sucking of the blood that way, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, there wasn't. I don't think next to really any of our cases. Like, we don't really, as far as the literature for the Parker brothers, the Carter brothers, it sounded like they were draining them too, like in cups and stuff. So there wasn't a lot of like biting and sucking. And she did say he bit her.
Yeah.
So, but he also had all this blood stored in
wine bottles. Yeah.
So was he biting? Like, clearly he hurt her pretty bad because she died. And not to mention, it could have been also stuff from the fall. She did jump from a second-story window.
Right.
She could have broke a rib, punctured a lung. Medical stuff wasn't released, so we don't know. But, I mean, he bit her bad enough to where she lost a whole bunch of blood because the house was covered in it.
Right.
So I imagine she probably died of blood loss, I would think, because they weren't doing transfusions back then. So when you lost it, you lost it. If you didn't have enough in you to rebound,
you're just
gone.
Fucked.
Yeah. So, yeah, he was the only, like, by today's standards, like vampire that we really covered. The whole blood sucking right from the tap via his mouth.
Yeah, as I'm listening to the stories and even thinking about it, when we recorded them and all that, that we really didn't have a traditional what you would think of as a vampire. I always think of the Buffy vampires are always bit the neck, drained the blood, and been done with it that way. And we didn't really have that traditional blood sucking vampire, which I like even more because it wasn't traditional. We just didn't do, I'm Dracula. We suck your blood type thing. We all went in different directions, and we brought in I thought interesting stories all the way through of different styles of vampire, and I thought it made for a very interesting Vamptober, and I'm very proud of us. I'm patting ourselves on the back.
Well, yeah, no, it's one of those things with like lore changes throughout time. And if the lore, some of these things could be real, some of these are people with mental illness. What the lore is at the time affects the psyche of the people that partake in it,
Right.
So like we had like the Count, and what was the Count? He was 1902. So that's like at the turn of the century. That's after around Mercy Brown era. So Bram Stoker's Dracula had been out, the book. So maybe he leaned more towards that. Or maybe the legends where he grew up from overseas in France, maybe that was more of the bite and suck kind, and then opposed to the people back in the 1800s that were like, I just need to drink the blood. I don't need to necessarily bite it. And then back all the way with Bathory, where she was like, I don't need to drink the blood because my problems aren't internal. What I need to do is look young, so I need to slather that shit on me.
I got a thick glaze going on over here. Yeah, it was a very very good Vamptober. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about getting some more feedback from the listeners. So as you get into the other side, as we finish up here, email us at the United States Paranormal at gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you what you thought of Vamptober as a whole. And did, like with Mason said here, he really liked the rocker chick story, and he wouldn't mind hearing a couple more like that down the road, the storytelling, a long letter or whatever. I know that as we get into the chiller filler for Halloween, I know ISO talked about wanting to hear more about horror, haunted houses over some of the other stuff we've kind of covered. He really liked that stuff, so we're going to try to do a couple more of those. We want to know from our listeners what you want us to talk about. We love to hear from the listeners, and hopefully Mason can attest this. We love to interact with our listeners and have conversations with them and get to know them and stuff like that. So I hope.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's always interesting.
You never know what's going to come out of our mouths.
It's true. But it had, like I said, like Golden J said, feedback is always fantastic because it always, just like lore, we're always changing.
Yep.
How we started and how we are now is very different, and it's just going to keep changing. So if there's a change that you would like to see, let us know. Hit us up. You could hit us up on Facebook like Mason has, or our email at the United States of Paranormal at gmail.com. I believe you can get to us through our website.
Yep.
Instagram. I think the only platform we really aren't on right now is we don't do Twitter or X or whatever it is, because I've never been good at that, and I'm all right.
I don't understand it.
I don't think a lot of people do at this point. Like I said, we got one more episode this month, and it's going to be coming out on Halloween, and it is the Halloween chiller filler, which we do have ISOCAM popping in for that one. Like Podcast Land's weird, so we've already recorded it. So technically this is it for us as far as like working on it.
Right.
We've got just a few more days before the Vamptober merch is gone. So if you want some, absolutely go hit it up there. It's an amazing design. Mason's wearing it right now. If you're watching the YouTube, it's a great shirt. You get cups, posters, and a rib knit beanie. So.
There's been so much on talk of ribbed in.
Yeah, I know, right?
You guys should really do some condoms. I think.
Hey, I'll take a sponsor wherever we can get it.
Hey, would you use a condom with my face on it?
That's kind of defeats the purpose.
Oh.
Spooky gets steamy. Here's your pleasure condoms from Tucson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Golden J approved.
Check it. So definitely go check all that out before it's gone. I still need to go place my order. I gotta get me a cup and a shirt before. Hell, I still need to get me some other side merch that's on there. I'm not even repping my own segment I'm on. So.
I know, right? Yeah, we got some great other side merch on there too. That Logan has put together that looks great. With the hands on the TV. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. UnitedStatesParanormal.com.
Very Poltergeist inspired. I loved watching that movie as a kid, so that's where I wanted to lean with that one. If you finish up Vamptober and you need more Halloween content, head on over to the Call Guys. Chico and Colton will be back from their hiatus this coming Monday. And
those babies are adorable.
They are. They absolutely are. And I'll be on that with ISO 2 covering some spooky content. So you can head on over there. Those boys have a great show. I thoroughly enjoy them. So if you need more spooky content, head on over to the Call Guys.
Yeah. Everybody's gonna get their fill of Logan this week.
Yeah.
So his episode drops on the Wednesday, and then this on the Saturday, and then he'll be on the Call Guys on Monday, the Chiller Filler on Tuesday. So go out and enjoy yourself some Logan.
Yeah. And then you won't have to listen to me until once a month again. So it'll be fine. You'll stop.
All right, guys. Well, let's wrap this up. Mason, do you have anything you'd like to say on the way out of the episode here?
It was it's been a great month. I've loved all these different stories and everything, all the different takes on it all. And J-Dub, listening to her and the 1.5 was an experience. I'm glad you said that.
Have you seen the post about the playlist and everything? What do you think about Tusop's music taste?
Dude, I've loved it. Actually, before we started the episode, I went through and I made my own.
Oh, nice.
Well,
yeah, absolutely. If you guys make your own playlist, send it to us on our socials.
Yeah.
I'm always interested in listening to people's stuff. And same with movie takes. I love hearing people's favorite horror movie takes.
Absolutely.
And mine dropped this week, so I'm excited for that.
Are you ready for Five Nights at Freddy's?
Oh, absolutely. See, this week is big week for me because this is where I go camping, my annual Renaissance camping, and we're going on the Halloween weekend. And all Thursday, I'll be cooking for getting stuff ready for the camp. And I'll also be doing recording the podcast with the call guys. And I told Kayla, I was like, they moved it. Five Nights at Freddy's coming out Thursday night now. It's going to be streaming on the Peacock. It's on there. And she was like, we're going to be really busy. And I was like, I know, but I'll make it work. And they moved. Originally it was going to drop at midnight Thursday, but now they moved it to drop it at like 8, I think. So I was like, oh, it's happening. I'm watching it because I've been waiting for that movie for over 8 years because they bought the rights and have changed it so many times that I'm not getting spoilers for it. I'm consuming that mainline as soon as it comes out.
Yeah, I was really excited to see that. I was like, when they first showed it was going to be on Peacock, and I was like, heck, I don't even have to go out.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even have to go to theaters anymore. I just stream it. So once you watch it, hit me up on the socials and let me know what you think, and I'll talk with you about it for sure. And that goes for anybody out there. If you ever want to talk horror movies, hit us up. You want to tell us something spooky to research? Let us know. You got something you lived through or been told secondhand you'd like to tell us via audio and have it played back in an episode? Absolutely do it.
Yes, we will do our best to respond as quickly as we possibly can. And don't forget, I'm still looking for those audio clips. So if you got one of your story, send it in. I need a couple more so I can do a whole episode of just listener submissions. So please, guys, take a few minutes and record it and send it to me. Would appreciate it. Don't be nervous. Just jump on there and do it.
Yeah, that's fine.
We got a couple great ones, and I'm ready to get them out and get this episode done. So got some other big things coming up for November and December. I've talked about it before. Peter's coming back. If you guys remember him from the UFO and the Kettsburg UFO crash story, he was a great guest. Looking forward to working with him on another new story from out there in Pennsylvania area. And Larissa is going to make her debut on the United States Paranormal in December. Got a text from her today.
Nice.
She's super excited. She just texted me. She goes, I just wanted to let you know, you and Rocker Chick, let you know I was thinking about you days. I got caught up in all that Chiefs game day traffic.
Oh no.
So I love that, man. I love that beyond words that, that's her first thought was like, oh, I bet Jeremy and Bobby are not here and enjoying not dealing with this fucking traffic.
Yeah, good Lord.
So yeah, she's going to be with us in December. Totally looking forward to that. So, all right, guys, I got to get out of here. Mason, thank you so much, man. It's so nice to meet you face to face.
Yes.
Via the web. Like I said, I've enjoyed all of our conversations and keep them coming, man. Love to hear from you as much as possible. So, and we'll definitely have to do this again.
Yeah.
Sure thing. Awesome.
And tell the hubby we said hi.
Yes. Does he listen to us too, or is it just you?
Usually he'll listen to like whenever I'm listening in the car and stuff like that.
Right on.
And I don't know what the hell he listens to. It's out there.
That's how it goes. Don't worry, the Rocker Chick doesn't listen to Golden J stuff.
Yeah, yeah. She goes, I live with him. I don't want to fucking listen to him all day long either. All right, guys. Well, we're out. Thank you, Mason, and we'll see you on the other side.
Absolutely. Keep it spooky.
Later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the United States of Paranormal. Check us out at theunitedstatesofparanormal.com or at any other of our social media pages. At Twitter at TOSOPPOD, at Instagram at the United States of Paranormal, or Facebook at the United States of Paranormal, or YouTube at the United States of Paranormal 1795.
Please check out our other podcasts in the Golden Mojo Entertainment Network. The Call Guys, Golden Image Podcast, Indiana Chiefs Fans, The Golden 80s, Murd Nerds, and A Quart of Books and Booze.
And If you have a location you would like us to check into or a creepy story that you would love to tell us, please email us at theunitedstatesofparanormal@gmail.com. Please like, rate, and subscribe wherever you listen.